Thank you.
We good?
We good.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it hits live.
Okay.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we live.
What's good? What's good? What's good, baby? Welcome to the first ever YouTube Live Nothing But Sports Show. Of course,
and we live.
I'm your host, Truex, the Sports Junkie. I hear an echo in the background. I apologize. But this is the first show on YouTube Live, on Zoom. So shout out to Zoom, shout out to YouTube Live. And like I said, I'm Truex, the Sports Junkie. I got the panel with me. I got my homie from the Bay Area, my boy, formerly known as the Certified Hater. What up, baby?
Yo, what's good? What's good? Yesterday we were able to give you the Let's Talk About the show with me and True. Today is the NBS show is gonna be every Tuesdays at 5:30. So we're gonna give you the latest and hottest topics in the world of sports. So let's get it.
Definitely. Of course, we got the homie from Virginia in the building. What up?
What's going on to all the NBS Central fans out there? It's the first ever show that I'm on YouTube Live and Zoom here. I had to read where I come from originally. I'm from Croatia, live in Virginia. I'm excited for this start, and let's get it popping.
Definitely. Of course, we got the homie from Vegas, my boy. What up?
What's going on, everybody? It is your boy, Mike Larson, Big Mike, live in Las Vegas, in the entertainment capital of the world. Ready to get this going. First show on YouTube Live as well. Let's get this going and make things great for NBS Central. We're glad you're with us, and we can't wait to do things for you.
Definitely. Last but definitely not least, we got the homie from Louisiana, but now stationed in D.C. My boy, my brother. What up?
What's good, everybody? What's Talk America? It's the man, the legend, the greatest sports analyst to ever bless these sports waves. Now live and direct. Now you can see my face, the full 9. It's Mr. Franchise. Let's go. As a matter of fact, let me tell y'all something, man. We got some special stuff coming up, especially with this YouTube Live, Facebook Live. We got some great stuff. But most importantly, I'm trying to bless y'all with some great sports knowledge, man. Let's go.
Definitely. Like I said, it's our first ever Nothing But Sports show on YouTube Live. This is our cream of the crop of the Nothing But Sports brand. We've been doing this for quite some time. And basically the show is formatted where all of us is going to give our insight, our thoughts on upcoming sports or stuff that happened in the past, or recent past, I should say. And our host is my homie. Kia, what up, buddy? Buddy, go ahead. Let's kick the show
All right,
off.
So every single week we've been promoting, the top 5 best quarterbacks of all time. Last week we did the most exciting players. This past week, what we're doing is we're doing the top 5 best running backs of all time. We've seen everybody's picks on social media. We don't know who Jasper has. Jasper's full of surprises, but this is your guys' chances to change your list, or you could stick with it. So let's talk about it, man. Top 5 best running backs of all time.
You guys bless me with your knowledge, and then I will gladly, or I'm playing.
Well,
go ahead.
What we'll do is we'll keep it in an order format, so it's not a lot of craziness going on. We'll start with Mr. Box Office, then followed by Big Mike, Then we'll go to Jay Franchise, then me, and then Keo go last, and then he'll get into the next topic. So let's go with that format.
All right, so I'll get started. Number 5, I'm going to go off with Marshall Falk. Marshall Falk was a great running back, not just running the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield. Had over 30 touchdowns receiving, won the MVP, went to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. They were part of the greatest team on turf, or greatest show on. Not much else to say. Just a complete back all around. And I think the MVP makes his case, 5 times into the top 5 all time. You can make your case for LT, but the difference for me and guys like Adrian Peterson and LT is Marshall Falk won a championship and went to 2 Super Bowls. Adrian Peterson, LT, and a couple others cannot say that. And that's what had me put him in the top 5. Number 4, Emmitt Smith. To me, Emmitt Smith deserves to be on there. Another MVP, 3 Super Bowls. They were more of a running team than a passing team during that Dallas Cowboys era in the 90s, that dynasty with Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin. I felt like he was the driving force. And I believe the year he won the MVP, he sat out the first 2 games because of a contract dispute with Jerry Jones, and they still managed to win MVP. I think he's the only one to ever do it that way. That is very impressive. He leads the NFL all time in rushing yards. No reason Emmitt Smith is not in anybody's top 5. No reason. The only reason he's not higher on this list is because the Dallas Cowboys were stacked all around. Great offensive line, Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame receiver. So you couldn't just focus on Emmitt Smith, and I think that benefited him big time. But you can't knock him for being the all-time leading rusher, having those 3 championships, and winning an MVP award during the regular season. Also won a Super Bowl MVP. Number 3, Jim Brown. Jim Brown could have played even longer. He wanted to take care of his body. He actually retired very early. I believe he was only in the league for 8 years. Still very impressive. Over 10,000 rush yards, over 100 yards, or over 100 rushing touchdowns, and the only running back to this day to average 100 yards per game. That is huge. Obviously, it's in a different era. It's in the 50s and the 60s, but just dominant, and clearly the best player from that era. And you can't knock him for the era he played in, because he dominated, and to this day is still, like I said, the only running back ever to average 100 yards rushing throughout his career. Number 2, Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was electrifying. When you watch him, I mean, guys are just, if you've never watched him play, and I've obviously born in the 90s, so I didn't watch a lot of Barry Sanders, but just watching his highlights, defenders couldn't do anything to him. He is on my top 3 list just because of the eye test. I mean, guys are flying around trying to catch him. They couldn't do anything to him. Only played 10 years, still managed to rush for 15,000 rush yards. 15,000 rush yards in 10 years is dominance. Obviously, being with the Detroit Lions hurt them, because they just never had teams good enough to take them to the big stage. But that's why he's in the top 3, is because opponents knew to focus on strictly Barry Sanders, and still he managed to win an MVP and have 15,000 rush yards all time. Just dominant. You couldn't do anything to him. Barry Sanders is in my top 3. And number 1, I think the best running back of all time, Walter Payton. Walter Payton, I think, had the most complete resume out of any running back that I've seen when you put in everything on the table. First off, won that Super Bowl with the Bears, the 85 Bears that were known for their defense. I mean, their passing game was nothing special. it relied on the run game with Walter Payton. He won a regular season MVP, 16,000 rush yards, and only played 12 years. Now, I say only 12, but what I'm saying is he could have played even longer and had those stats come up. Over 100 rush yards. He's number one to me because I feel like he didn't benefit as much as the others on the list with such a bad offense around him, but managed to still win a Super Bowl. Obviously, don't get me wrong, the 85 Bears defense, everybody knows for what they are, but offensively, he had less than those other running backs and still managed to put out as much, if not more. And that Super Bowl ring and an MVP award do it for me. Walter Payton, the greatest running back of all time. So my top five Marshall Faulk, 4 Emmitt Smith, 3 Jim Brown, 2 Barry Sanders, 1 Walter Payton.
No doubt. At my fifth spot, I was actually the only one to put Adrian Peterson there. In my opinion, Adrian Peterson was the best pure runner that we've ever seen. And in terms of that, I'm talking about vision. I'm talking about top end speed and an ability to shed off tackles, especially at the first line of scrimmage. I think Adrian Peterson did that better than anyone. I think he did it with less talent around him than almost anyone. And I mean, we're talking about Christian Ponder, Joe Webb, and Adrian Peterson ran for 2,100 yards, almost 2,097 yards with those kinds of guys. Adrian Peterson has to be on this list. At number 4, LaDainian Tomlinson. LT, I'm a Raiders fan. I got to witness him pummel my Raiders. He pummeled them more than anyone. He had his best stats against them, and nobody found the end zone more than him on average. And he ended up with 145 touchdowns, second all time. And when it was the red zone, you knew who was getting the ball. You knew who was going to get force fed the ball, and they still couldn't do anything about it. LaDainian Tomlinson is absolutely the best in the red zone. Number 3, I have Walter Payton. This was a tough one between 3 and 2. I put Walter Payton here because for various reasons, but Walter Payton did have a great defense around him. But no matter what, he definitely had less talent around him than my number 2 spot. Regardless, you can't down talk sweetness. He was, one word you can say about him is toughness. Never missed a snap, and he played with broken ribs, busted ankles, everything. Walter Payton is the definition of toughness, and he definitely carried the Chicago Bears on his back, especially their offense when he was there. Number 2, I have Emmitt Smith, the all-time rushing leader. I just couldn't put him at number 3. He did it for so long. He did it with a lot of circumstances against him, especially people that felt the need to devalue him as well. And I just couldn't be the person to devalue him. Watching him, he had 3 trunks for legs. He couldn't be brought down. He was power. He was strength. And again, he was also the best player on a dynasty. That was a little bit of the edge over Walter Payton. Number 1, I got Barry Sanders. He's absolutely the best running back I've ever seen. He was a cheat code. If we had gotten to see 15 years of him, he's breaking even more records. Barry Sanders is absolutely the best. I mean, we're talking. I mean, just his moves alone. Like I said, he was a cheat code. I mean, you could put him you could have put him as a top 10 running back of all time just based off of his college numbers. Barry Sanders was absolutely in my eyes the best running back, and it's a tragedy that we didn't get to see him for a full career. Those are my top 5.
Franchise.
Wow. Very interesting. Number 5. I'm gonna go with Marshall Faulk. He was a bad man. He was a bad man. Good, but good enough to get to the Hall of Fame. You know, very shifty, part of the greatest show on turf. That was a team that could have won 2 Super Bowls had it not been for Tom Brady and company. Number 4, I put Jim Brown here, and here's the reason why. They didn't play as many games. He did break the barrier of great running backs. a lot of the great running backs, i.e. the Earl Campbells, the Walter Paynes, the Emmitt Smiths, the list goes on, looked up to Jim Brown. Jim Brown was tough. When you talk about tough running backs, you got to say Jim Brown, Earl Campbell, those guys were extremely tough. APs, LT to some extent. Those were tough guys, but I love Jim Brown. Jim Brown statistically was a bad man, especially they didn't play a whole 16 games. I think they might have played like 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now this is where it gets interesting. Number 3, Barry Sanders. And I'm going to tell y'all why. I loved Barry Sanders. When I played Madden, I usually played Madden with the Detroit Lions, and I just ran the football like 100 times. It was ignorant, because he was unstoppable. You couldn't stop him. Probably, one of the better running backs that didn't have a really good QB, a really good offensive line. I still tell people, to this day, if Barry Sanders had the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, he'd have shattered records. There would be records that would never get broken, period. Because his speed was ridiculous. And the amount of tackles he broke before he got to the line of scrimmage was crazy, in my opinion. Number 2, I'm going to go with Walter Payton. Oh, let me say this. Number 3, before I go to number 2, the reason why Barry Sanders is not top 1 or 2 is because he never won a title. Never won a title in my book. Because he never won a title, I can't give you number 1. Now, Walter Payton won an NFL championship. Great running back, sweetness, tough, top 3 running backs of all time in terms of rushing yards. Held that record for a very long time, and again, a class act across the board. I really, wish we could have, I really wish he was here to, enjoy and see these great batches of running backs that have came out and that are doing great things. Which now leads me to my number 1. It's Emmitt Smith, man. It's Emmitt Smith, man. You cannot fault Emmitt Smith because Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson decided, let's get an offensive line. Let's get a decent tight end. Let's get a pretty decent QB in Troy Aikman. Let's go get Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin. Let's go get Charles. You can't fault Emmitt Smith for that. You can't fault him for that.
Well, we aren't faulting him, but he does benefit from them.
Hey, Croatian sensation. Listen here, man. People can say what they want. Oh, Emmitt Smith is slow. Oh, Emmitt Smith had an offensive line full of Ford F-150s and everybody else was damn Hondas. I get it. But guess what? He used what he had. It's not his fault. He's got the rushing record for leading rushers of all time. He ran the football well. 6-7 yards a pop in the Super Bowl against a Buffalo Bills defense that I thought was going to bust his neck in. He bust their neck in. Troy did not have to do nothing. Troy Aikman should be proud he has an Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith's my number 1. I'm sorry. And if any of y'all got something bad to say about me, see me in my email.
Oh my God, look Keo. And Keo's loving this right now. Let me first start by saying
first.
Kill you on your phone. I mean, your connection's all weak, so it's probably as weak as Jasper's argument just now. That's terrible.
Got him there.
And let me say this. I'm disappointed in you, Jay. I am totally disappointed in you because you and I are the two older ones on this show. You and I are the two oldest ones on this show. We grew up together. For anybody out there, we grew up together. And I'm so disappointed in you right now in the blasphemy. Are you going to tell me? I'm big on the eye test. Okay. You're going to tell me that Emmitt Smith is a better running back than Barry Sanders?
How many bets did I lose
Come on.
to Emmitt Smith winning the Super Bowl? How many? Too many. So I'm not right now.
Okay.
He might be a better running back, but Barry's a better running back. But I'm sorry, man. You cannot fault Emmitt Smith because he had a great offensive line.
Hey, I will. I'm not gonna fault him. He's in my top 5. Speaking about that, I'm gonna respect your decision, but I'm gonna go with my top 5. So coming in at number 5, that's right, people. 5 is Emmitt Smith. And let me tell you, I actually thought about putting him 6 because I understand what Big Mike said earlier.
6.
Excuse me. I'm gonna tell you why. You give Adrian Peterson that same team, I think he does the same exact thing, if not more, than what Emmitt Smith did. So I'm gonna put Smith there only because I can't take away from his resume. But he is not the greatest running back of all time. He is number 5. He's gonna put him top 5. He's the leading rusher of all time. He played for quite some time. A lot of people don't remember the Cardinal days. How was he in Arizona? He was decent. He was nothing special. Let's not do that, Jasper. He was
a role model to those guys.
Okay.
If not for Emmitt Smith, we wouldn't. Larry Fitzgerald wouldn't be the professional that he is.
Oh my God. All right, stop. Okay. Emmitt Smith averaged 4.3 yards. Well, no, not 4 point. What it was, 4.2 yards a carry with the best offensive line of all these guys. 4.2 with the best offensive line of all these guys. No debate. You can't argue that. So,
I could argue that.
You think that the Cowboys have the best offensive line?
3.
You know who had You know who had better
3
offensive linemen? You know who had better offensive linemen than Smith?
Who?
Jim Brown.
Stop.
Jim Brown had 22 Pro Bowlers in his 9-year career. That was an average about 3 Pro Bowlers, 3.22 to be exact.
The Dallas Cowboys offensive line
at that time, Mike?
Was all Pro
What's that?
Bowlers.
How many teams did they have at that time, Mike?
They had less teams. You're right.
Come on, man. Like, we have to be real about the situation.
All I'm saying, you can still fault Brown though. He's not going to put up those same numbers.
I'm about to tell you why Jim Brown is number 1 in a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
This is
Emmitt
why we
Smith
don't have him because of nonsense like this. But go ahead.
So Emmitt Smith comes in at number 5, 4.2 yards per carry.
I'm muting myself. This
really
dude,
good.
I can't believe this.
Really good, but not all time great to me. Out of all these guys, I think he averaged the least amount per attempt. So he comes in at number 5 for me. There's no disrespect to him. He's a really good running back. Coming in number 4 for me is my personal. And some people can say, well, X, you being somewhat biased, but my personal favorite running back of all time, which is Marshall Faulk. He's a slight hair above Emmitt Smith as far as per yard carry. And that's 4.3, but all around talent. Mike brought up LaDainian Tomlinson. Marshall Faulk was doing that before LaDainian Tomlinson. And this is the biggest thing I want to put out there. We know how smart Peyton Manning is in the field. He said the smartest player he's ever played with, by far, no comparison, is Marshall Faulk. that shows you the IQ of this guy. So Marshall Faulk comes in at number 4 for me. Number 3 is Walter Payton. I have no issue with anybody in my top 3 being number 1. Walter Payton, phenomenal running back. But I think that the defense was so ferocious. Teams was trying to try things against the Bears for whatever reason on their defense that Walter got set up in pretty good situations, whether it was picks or interceptions, set him up in great. Now he had to do what he had to do, but I still think that he was put in a lot of great situations playing for the Bears. Coming in number 2 is probably the most talented running back in the history of running backs, and that's Barry Sanders. I agree with Mike wholeheartedly. If Barry Sanders plays out his entire career, you can make the case that he's the greatest running back of all time. But my number 1 guy, and I can honestly say most of the time, you guys know me, I don't put somebody in my top 5 or in my rankings if I haven't personally saw them. But when they were playing. But I actually watched a lot of Jim Brown highlights. A lot. And this dude is he's the best. He's the greatest of all time. And this is something else I want to say. Barry Sanders' own dad said, no running back is better than Jim Brown. For Barry Sanders' father to say that he's not better than Jim Brown, that just tells you something. College football has ranked Jim Brown the greatest college football player ever. So regardless of what the Browns' offensive line looks like, and that was in 2020, they said college football ranked Jim Brown the greatest running back ever in college football history. Jim Brown averaged 5.2 yards a carry. That's in 2 carries, he's getting the first down. That basically means the Browns are not even getting on 3rd down if they give him the ball on 1st and 2nd down. That's just phenomenal. I'm going Jim Brown number 1. And then when you look at body stature, 6'2", 230. Come on, man. That's a grown man. So I'm going with Jim Brown as my number 1 running back of all time. Kia?
Okay, here's what I'm going to say before we go on to Kia with that. My only issue with somebody having Jim Brown first is that those eras weren't as impressive. So it's kind of like saying Bill Russell is the greatest basketball player ever. The NBA had 8 NBA teams when Bill Russell was playing. The NFL had 14 teams when Jim Brown won a title. So less games, less tread on the tires, less teams. The athletes aren't as good as today. I just can't go there because of that. He was amazing. That's why he's in my top 5. But I just think some athletes were way more superior at that time compared to today, where a lot of athletes are about on the same level. So that's my only issue with Jim Brown being number 1.
And that's fair. 3. That's definitely fair. I can't even argue that. That's fair.
The era argument is very difficult. Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, they played in different eras, but if you put them in our era with the training, nutrition, things might be different. I decided to fault Jim Brown for that. For who he played against. He played against linebackers that were 6 feet, 220. We have running backs that are as I mean, we have wide receivers that are that size now. So I it's different. It's definitely difficult to make that argument. It's to each his own, I guess.
Definitely. Keo?
Okay. I was able to cover my top 5 on yesterday's show, so I'll make it quick because you guys took over this topic like always. So number 5, I'm going with LT in this one. I felt like he deserved it based off of the numbers. He was able to get to the postseason. We all know he wasn't able to get to the Super Bowl and even win it. He had MVP awards, and his number supports itself. And he was one of the most exciting players to watch. 4, I'm going with Barry Sanders. I'm not high on Barry Sanders like you guys are. I wasn't a huge fan of Barry. I don't think he's exciting at all. I think a lot of people gas him up, especially the old school football fans like True. I can't. Mike. But when people talk about Barry Sanders had no help, he had nobody on the team. I'm not going to be disrespectful to guys like Herman Moore.
He didn't have no help. He didn't have no help.
Herman Moore
on Thanksgiving Day.
Scott Mitchell, Rodney Pete. Are you kidding me?
Hold on, True. He didn't have no help torching on Thanksgiving Day.
And he had a decent defense also led by Chris Spielman. So I think people really hype him up when they talk about how great Barry is. Obviously, his number speaks for itself, but I always thought it was annoying in this game when he tried to do too much, man. And majority of the times, he gets negative yards based off of those try to do those flashy runs. But he do gain some positives off of that. But out of respect, I'm gonna put him at number 4. Number 3, I got Jim Brown on there. I felt bad that I wasn't able to watch him play through his time, but he was dominant, man. Obviously, the game changed as Jim Brown left, but Jim Brown definitely deserves to be in there. Number 2, I got to go with Walter Payton. Walter Payton, it's one of the most polarized running backs of all time. When you think of best running backs of all time, he's on the top of the list. And once again, his numbers, the way he runs the ball, and he was the heart and soul of that team during that tenure with the Chicago Bears. And number 1, you could call it bias if you want. I'm going with Emmitt Smith also. I think Emmitt Smith, he has it all to support his case for the greatest running back of all time. He has the rings. He has the postseason success. I mean, he holds multiple records, and I don't think nobody's gonna catch up to him. And longevity also, man. I think his legacy will live on and continue. People talk about that offensive line. That offensive line wasn't confident before that. They weren't confident before Emmitt Smith got there. So I got to give it to Emmitt Smith. So Emmitt Smith is the best running back of all time.
Can I say something real quick, Yvonne?
You're clearly being biased.
Right? Yvonne, not
Yeah,
Yvonne.
sure.
Keo, I love that you chose Emmett at number 1. There was some slight Dallas bias. I felt it, smelt it. It's okay. How dare you disrespect Emmett? How dare you disrespect Barry Sanders? Let me tell you something, man. You got me want to stutter about how disrespectful. Barry Sanders torched Dallas on Thanksgiving. Okay?
Are we talking about the regular season?
Yes. Please don't tell me you're gonna do this playoffs thing. Don't do that. What I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying, Keo. You gotta respect. Look, bro, Barry was a bad man, bro. I loved it. Hey, look, Emmitt Smith. When I was young, I didn't respect him until he retired. But Barry was a bad dude, bro. Barry was a bad dude.
I'm also going to add this.
Like, if not for Barry Sanders, bro, like if there was no Barry Sanders, Stuart Scott wouldn't have not had all them little highlight. Oh my, he's going, boom, boom, boom. You wouldn't hear about that.
So I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion. The reason why I feel the way I feel about Barry Sanders. True, Jasper. Hopefully you remember it. But that year that Barry Sanders was supposed to come back, I kind of felt like he left his team hanging, man. He didn't say nothing at all. No type of communication with the Lions. And I just couldn't respect that at all. Especially somebody like Barry Sanders, man. I remember that year also when he left his team hanging without saying anything. Nobody knew anything about if he was coming back or not.
That's fair.
Well, I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna add this because the numbers don't lie. At the end of the day, first off, I don't like how Keo had LT at 5 and Barry Sanders at 4, acting like that's like that they were that close. Okay, they both played 10 years, and Barry Sanders was much better and did not have Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers. That's a huge difference. To me, I think Barry Sanders was way better than LT. And with Emmitt Smith, I have Barry Sanders above Emmitt Smith because Emmitt Smith played 4 more years and only had 2,000 yards more. Give Barry Sanders 4 more years, he's going to shatter that record. And also give him the offensive line that Emmitt Smith had. He's winning those same Super Bowls. Barry Sanders was better than Emmitt Smith in my mind.
Smart man. Smart man. Yeah, let's get to the next topic because we'll be on this all
because I'm getting tired of you back here. It's sick right now in my stomach. But I'm gonna keep my composure and not go cross the line with you guys. So the next topic is it's one of the hottest topics actually in the NFL right now. So Christian McCaffrey is the highest paid running back in the NFL. I think he got a 4-year, $64 million extension. So are you guys in favor with this, or are you guys against this?
I need to take this, man. And there's gonna be some people that feel right, wrong, and different, and he deserves the money. Let me tell y'all something, man. The Panthers, look, yes, they just paid Teddy Bridgewater, was it $21 million a year? Yes, they got a brand new coach. Yes, they got a great offensive genius. Their defense is terrible. I would have invested in the defense. Christian McCaffrey still had 2 years left. I get the loyalty piece, but you still got a terrible defense. James Bradbury's gone. Kuechly retired. I'm sorry. That could have waited. Because, yes, we're going to give Christian McCaffrey $64 million, $16 million a year. I get it. But you're going to be 3-13 because you ain't got a defense. And, oh, by the way, the final score to every game is going to be 53-30 because your defense is horrible.
Oh, my God. Franchise.
Just being honest, man. Defense wins games. Defense wins games where offense sells tickets. If you want to sell tickets, okay, great, pay them. But if you want to win championships, hey, build your defense, man.
No. All right. Well, I agree with Jasper here. If anybody knows, we have this NBS Central chat group, and we're always fussing in there. And one of the biggest topics in there is paying running backs. Look, the proof is in the pudding. Who wins you championships? Defense, and 9 out of 10 times, a great quarterback. Yep. You'll have your Trent Dilfers and Nick Foles here and there. But do elite running backs ever win you championships in the last 2 decades? No. Let's go through the recent Super Bowl winners. This year, the Chiefs won it. Who was their running back? Damian Williams. Cheap. The year before, the Patriots, Sony Michel. Cheap. The year before that, the Eagles, Jay Ajayi. Cheap. Then you had the Broncos. You had with C.J. Anderson. You had the Patriots with James White, Dion Lewis. You had Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs, Willie Parker,
Piggly Wiggly cheap.
Joseph Adai. This is who we're talking about. Who wins you Super Bowls out of the running back position? The last I thought elite running back to win a Super Bowl was Marshawn Lynch. I thought he was an elite running back, and they also had an elite defense, and you could say that's the reason they won the Super Bowl. Before that, who was it? Jamal Lewis with the Ravens, Marshall Faulk with the Rams. So what I'm trying to get at is listen to names I'm naming, and the last elite running backs I've won, it's been over 2 decades. Besides Marshawn Lynch, you can win with the C.J. Anderson. You can win with the Damian Williams, with the Sony Michel, with the James White. There's no need to pay these guys this much. Look at the year the Rams paid Todd Gurley. They went to the Super Bowl basically without him. He barely played against the Saints in the NFC title game. And then in the Super Bowl, C.J. Anderson had more rush yards than him. Now the Rams realize, oh, we messed up. We don't want to pay him. We'll actually pay him to not play here. And they got rid of him. So these elite running backs do not last very long, and you don't need them to win a Super Bowl. You need a good quarterback, and you need an elite defense. That's usually what gets you over the top. And the proof is in the pudding. Just look at the champions. Look at the Super Bowl winners. I realize Christian McCaffrey does more than most running backs. He had 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing. And that's great. But I'm not paying him. I'm not paying any running back more than $10 million a year. Zeke is at 15. McCaffrey's at 16. Le'Veon's at 13. And none of them have Super Bowl rings.
Hey, Alvin Kamara, let me say something to you right now, man. If you listen to Alvin Kamara, you better not come out your mouth and dare think we're going to give you over 10. Because if we give you over 10, hey, man, them dreads coming off, man.
What? So basically, I'm not paying any running back over 10. I love what the Tennessee Titans did. I don't love that they signed Ryan Tannehill. I wouldn't have paid him that much, but they said, we're looking at the other running backs. They're not winning titles. Derrick Henry, I know you were the main reason we got to the AFC title game, but we didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and we didn't win it. You're going to get franchise tagged, and you're going to get $10 million a year max. And guess what they did? He got $10 million, and that's how much I'm paying at most as well. Sorry, but I'm investing in the quarterback and the defense, not a running back. And Alvin Kamara, by the way, to you Saints fans, is going to want that money. There's already a video about him seeing the news of Christian McCaffrey, and he's all excited. I hope the Saints pay him because I think it would be stupid. That's just me.
You know what? I hope you take off that headband too, man. That was okay. We're not paying that fool.
You pay him. You pay him.
Shave your beard. Next.
Big Mike.
I'm in complete disagreement. Usually, I'm not for that. I wasn't high on the Ezekiel Elliott contract. I wasn't high on Todd Gurley, but for a couple reasons. Ezekiel Elliott, I didn't like it. I don't like his personality. I don't think it's fit for the team. And also, I think their offensive line, the foundations that they have, Dak Prescott, their offensive line, their defensive pieces, I think that those were more important than paying Ezekiel Elliott. I felt you could get the production from Ezekiel Elliott somewhere else, even though he does seem to be one of the best all-around running backs out there. However, I think that there are better all-around running backs, i.e. Christian McCaffrey. However, they did pay him. Todd Gurley, he had injuries. I wasn't for that contract either. Christian McCaffrey is different. Christian McCaffrey, in my eyes, is the best running back in the NFL right now. He is doing the things that Marshall Faulk, LaDainian Tomlinson did, but he's doing them almost better. He's the complete offense of the Carolina Panthers. Last year, he was ranked first in touches, scrimmage yards, and scrimmage touchdowns of any player. 2,400 scrimmage yards, 2,400 scrimmage yards. I should have looked at this before, and maybe somebody can. I might try and look at it while everybody else is talking. But I want to know what teams didn't even reach 2,400 scrimmage yards last year? I'd like to know that, because I bet Christian McCaffrey's right up there with some of these teams.
The Bengals, your Raiders, but keep going.
Absolutely. As you can see, I hear that Raiders stab though. I'm gonna have to fact check that real quick. But Christian McCaffrey, he's a slot receiver, but he's also your running back. He's two positions in one. Might pay him as one, as two. I mean, he is their complete offense. He does things that the other player, that the rest of his team can't, that other players in the NFL can't. And right now is actually it's the perfect time to pay him. Don't wait one more year. Pay him right now, because they're rebuilding. No, they aren't going to spend money on the free agents, on the defensive free agents that were around this year, because first of all, there weren't very many options. You're not going to dish out that contract to Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney isn't worth it. Christian McCaffrey is absolutely more worth it than Jadeveon Clowney. The Panthers are rebuilding. They should be contending in 2 years at that's the ideal time. They got a new regimen. They got a new quarterback. They paid their quarterback. They paid their running back. They start building in the draft with their defense. They start building their defense in the draft. And I like what the Panthers are doing. Christian McCaffrey is different. He is absolutely Marshall Faulk reincarnated from the things that he does. Christian McCaffrey has moves just like Faulk. He catches just like Faulk. And he scores like a monster too. Once he sees that end zone, he can't be stopped, and he has perfect balance as well. Christian McCaffrey is absolutely different, and paying him $16 million, it is pricey, but this time is the right time. I'm paying him that contract if I'm the Panthers, and I think it was the right move.
All right. I can see the
Y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead, because I think there's a point that's being missed, but I just want to make sure that you guys go before I touch on a very, very serious point. But go ahead.
I can see it all over your face, Jasper. You're disgusted with this.
Beyond.
But Yvonne knows, Mike knows how I feel about this. Everybody knows. There's no way in the world I'm paying Christian McCaffrey that money. I understand what Mike's saying, especially for ticket sales. I understand it. If that's what you're gonna go off of, ticket sales wise, cool. But they won 5 games this past season. So all that, what you put up, means nothing to me. Means nothing to me. If you won 5 games this year, that's like equivalent of Kevin Love doing what he did in Minnesota. It means nothing. Those stats mean nothing to me. 5 wins? Come on, man. They were the worst team in their division. Worse than
5 wins.
Listen to this. As bad as Jameis Winston was, throwing 30 interceptions, they still won more games than the Carolina Panthers.
I can get you 5 wins.
There's no way I'm paying Christian McCaffrey all that money. But like I said, Mike, I get where you're going with it if you're talking about selling tickets, because of course people are going to come to see Christian McCaffrey. But you bring up LaDainian Tomlinson, never won a Super Bowl. Pay him, but you ain't going to win no Super Bowl with that. Adrian Peterson was in your top 5, never won a Super Bowl. So yeah, you can pay Christian McCaffrey if that's what you want to do for ticket sales, but that doesn't equivalent to wins. So I'm not paying Christian McCaffrey. I think he had a phenomenal season as far as statistical, but does it mean anything to me? No. Nick Chubb had a lot of rushing yards. Meant nothing. The Browns was terrible. So I don't care about your yards if it's not equivalating to wins. That's why I had Marshall Faulk in my top 5, but not LaDainian Tomlinson. Marshall won. Now, I will give you this. If Joe Brady can bring that offense that he bought from LSU to the Panthers, he's a great weapon, a great asset. But like Jasper said, you still had 2 years left on that deal. Let's see first. Give me 1 year. Let me see what you can do under Joe Brady and them. But they didn't do that. They paid him. Good luck to him. I wish him nothing but the best. Phenomenal talent, but I'm not paying him.
Why? I don't know. Nobody's talking about the timing though. Again, this is the perfect time to pay him. This doesn't hurt them as much as it would if they waited 1 more year. Because
true. Let me get this.
And Christian McCaffrey thrives under Joe Brady because he will. He thrives under the play action, the play action of him taking pressure off of the wide receivers and Teddy Bridgewater. We'll see if Teddy Bridgewater can throw downfield off of these play action passes. But I don't doubt that he can, and he's on a short-term contract regardless. Christian McCaffrey absolutely is a weapon that you can't get anywhere else and can absolutely be the focal point of a Super Bowl team. Todd Gurley was, and yeah, they were able to. He got injured right before the playoffs, and they found somebody that had fresh legs, C.J. Anderson, that was able to carry them a little bit more, and they ran that two duo up into the playoffs, and then Gurley was finished. However, Gurley was absolutely that offense, and you saw last year without Gurley being the running back that he was, the Rams' offense was nothing. They couldn't. Nobody commit. The defenses did not commit to the run. They continued to drop in coverage, even on play action passes, because they didn't care. They said, "Oh, Todd Gurley's slow. He can't do the same things anymore. So we're not worried about Todd Gurley anymore." And Jared Goff just couldn't get. And he's not as accurate as he should be for a number one pick. And with everybody dropping into coverage, he just wasn't the same quarterback. Todd Gurley took off of Jared Goff. And that's why their offense.
No, I want.
Let
me get this real quick.
But that's the issue, Mike. You got one amazing year out of Todd Gurley, and you paid him for 4. Even if McCaffrey's great next year, you paid him for 4. So he's got to do that for next 4 years, and you hope to build a Super Bowl team around him. I just don't see it. Go ahead, Jay.
Here's my issue, right? You gave Todd Gurley the bread. His play declined. You give Le'Veon Bell the bread. His play declines. You give Melvin Gordon a little bit of bread. His game declines.
Even Zeke declined this year.
Zeke declined. At what point do we stop and start saying, "Hey, man, either A, honor your contract, or B, show me something. Show me 3 years of this. I mean 3.
Le'Veon Bell and Melvin Gordon didn't get paid. That's the thing. They didn't get paid.
Le'Veon Bell got the 4-year, $52 million deal last year.
From the Jets.
And played like straight doo-doo.
Yes,
I could have got them yards from the Jets.
And no one's faulting them. Christian McCaffrey's different from Le'Veon Bell. Christian McCaffrey's different from Melvin Gordon. He's younger. He hasn't had any injuries. Nothing to say that this dude is going to slow down. And again, we'll see next year. But I like the Panthers betting on this transcendent talent and the offense that they're building with Matt Rule and Joe Brady.
Line.
They've got two great
offensive line.
They've got 2 great offensive minds, and they have
no offensive line
on Christian McCaffrey.
They have 0 offensive line. Their offensive line is terrible.
He didn't win that offensive line last year. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
You didn't watch them, obviously, because their holes were fine.
So his offensive line is nice.
No one said that it was. No one's saying it's elite, but it's nice enough for him to do what he did. I saw the gaps. I saw the holes. Chris McCaffrey was able to do it, and he also has. I'm
gonna just say this right now.
The holes himself.
I'm gonna say this right now. If you're a fantasy football owner, do not draft Christian McCaffrey. If you do, you will be sadly disappointed.
I don't agree with that.
Okay,
you will be sadly. Look,
no one's listening to you for fantasy advice. No one's listening to you for fantasy advice, sir.
In that bread, and he was terrible. If you drafted Zeke Elliott last year, he didn't play that well. Sorry, I'm just letting y'all know. Y'all gonna be disappointed.
Okay, well,
Ezekiel Elliott was also having a contract dispute. That's why he didn't play as well.
Oh
yeah,
my
but Zeke
God.
still rushed for 1,300 yards. Let's not act like Zeke was just terrible. He was still a decent running back. Let's not come on, man. He was still a 1,300-yard rush. But Mike, so this year, Christian McCaffrey touched the ball over 400 times.
Yeah.
You think that's going to hold up for the next 4 years?
Not the 4th year. I think he holds up for 2-3 more years, absolutely. And they can make a Super Bowl in 2 or 3 years. That is their time.
I actually agree with Mike there that he's going to hold up for 2-3 more years. They're just not going to win, and I wouldn't pay.
What the?
Why couldn't they win though? Just saying that if Todd Gurley wasn't if Todd Gurley didn't get injured in that Super Bowl or in the playoffs before that, that they might not have a little edge there. Are you serious? I mean, the reason that the Patriots won was because Todd Gurley wasn't the same. They were able to drop in Tampa 2 on a
true. That is
third
true.
or a fourth and one.
Yeah, but they
Fourth and
paid
one,
him.
third and
But
one, and they were in Tampa 2, bro. Now with
they
Todd
paid
Gurley,
him.
they're not doing
But,
that.
but they paid him to be Todd Gurley, and he wasn't. That's the point.
And
Todd
I
Gurley's
would
had
say
injuries. Todd Gurley's had injuries, and C-Mac hasn't, though. That's the difference.
I know Keo has to go. I will say this.
Who?
I can't blame Mike because he is talented and Joe Brady has a proven track record. He did that with LSU last year. Sky's the limit. So we'll see. But Keo, what you think?
I'm glad that you guys are finally done. Once again, take over. You take over another topic. You guys remind me of Carmelo, ball hogging.
We don't win no championship. We just go 45 points, no chip.
But if it was me, I don't think 64 million is enough. I would have paid them more for that.
Wow.
Get him off of here. Get him off of here.
First
Mike,
of all,
over. Get him off. Get this dude, him, this dude. And
Now he's just trolling.
This thing
first of all, you had your chance to talk, so just shut up and listen to me. So I would actually pay him, man. I'm looking at ticket sales. I'm looking at a franchise running back, man. His number speaks for itself. You can't penalize him because the team's bad. Look what he has around him in Carolina. They had quarterback issues that whole season, but Christian McCaffrey ended up still putting up huge numbers, even though they took L's. And then
Keo,
on top of that,
the
defense was bad. So you can't penalize him for his individual accolades and all the stats he was able to put up.
Okay. Keo, since you said he didn't get enough, right? You are the GM of the Carolina Panthers. What would you pay Christian McCaffrey?
I'm talking about around 80 million. And we're talking about some heavy guaranteed money.
Bye, Felicia.
Because the running back position, it doesn't have a long lifespan. When you look at running backs that was able to grace us with their presence, guys like Jamal Charles, his lifespan didn't last that long. I remember we talked about Arian Foster, a great running back. One of my favorites of all time. His lifespan didn't last a long time. And when you talk about Zeke, even though I'm a Cowboys fan, Zeke didn't take no decline. Zeke's been the most consistent running back of all the running backs in the NFL right now, and his number speaks for itself. But let me get back to Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey, I think he deserves more than that. I think Carolina got a pass, man, and Carolina should be thankful he was signing 64 million for 4 years. And what I think they're gonna do is they're gonna build that offense around him with Joe Brady, because Joe Brady he knows what he's gonna do with Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey, his skill set speaks for itself, and you could utilize Christian McCaffrey in many different ways. So I definitely like me some Christian McCaffrey. I definitely would pay him more, and I'm looking forward to see what more huge numbers he puts up. Oh yeah, and if you want to talk about fantasy football, you damn right. He's the first running back I'm picking. So and what?
True. In the great words of True X, the sports junkie, the blasphemy.
He needs to be drug tested.
Now,
So you pay him about $20 million a year, Keo?
AP got 20 mil a year. When AP got that big deal, does everyone remember when AP got that big deal? It was 5 years, $100 million. This dude is not, and remember, AP was putting up some ridiculous numbers. You're telling me Christian McCaffrey is going to get 400 carries or 400 touches in a season again? Out of 6 more years left because they got him locked in until 2025. 5 to 6 more years, give or take. You think he's going to get 400 and win games?
Well, first I'm trying to figure out, why would you pay somebody more than they're asking for? That's first. If he's asking for 16,
because Keo's not a GM. Keo is right here running the NBS Central show. That is why he's not a GM. I'm sorry, Keo. I love you. You my man, 50 grand. But by God, this is why you're here and you're not in their front office. I'm sorry. Look, man. Let me break something down to you. I think Christian McCaffrey's a good running back. I think he's had some pretty productive years. I think he is a highlight reel to remember. However, you got to remember, football is more than just a one-man sport. Like there's multiple, like everybody's important. Everybody's out. Remember, they got wide receivers that aren't really dependable wide receivers. Oh, by the way, their best tight end of all time is gone. It's gone. Oh, you're gonna depend on Teddy Bridgewater, aka I'm just good enough to throw 10 yards and that's it. Okay, all right. Oh, I'm gonna depend on a defense that their best player is gone. Their best defensive player is gone, and James Bradbury. Dontrell Poe is gone. They don't have a pass rusher to save their life. Huh? You're gonna pay this dude 80? You would give this dude? Oh man, Keo.
I'm not
Hey, you my man.
I'm not gonna.
You my man.
I'm not.
I respect your opinions, but Keo, come on, man.
You can't penalize them because the team's not winning.
That's fine, but do not overpay him when he's not even asking
for itself.
I'm gonna leave this at this so we can move on. Alvin Kamara, if you listening, if you dare come out your mouth and ask for anything over $10 million,
oh, he's going to.
Man, hey, bro, bye, Felicia.
I actually agree with Jasper. I would actually trade Alvin Kamara.
Kamara's not the
now,
same player. Sure.
I completely disagree with that.
You know something true? I'm gonna be honest with you. Now that at first I used to think, man, that's crazy. Why would we get rid of him like that? Why would we just do that? Now it makes sense because if this dude even comes out of his mouth and says $10 to $14 million, bye. You're not that kind of dude. We don't use you like that. We could go get somebody in the draft tomorrow.
Latavius Murray could easily fill that role.
I don't know about that now, but okay.
I actually agree with Mike.
Latavius Murray could easily fill that role.
Latavius Murray.
Murray ran the ball better than Kamara, like straight rushing the ball last year at certain points.
Latavius Murray was our poor man's Mark Ingram.
Yes, exactly. He could do the things just a little bit less. He could run the ball just fine. You find a pass catcher
for less of a price.
Maybe in the draft. You find a little pass catching running back and you'll be fine. Or maybe you do find another Kamara later in the draft. But I don't think that Kamara's worth. He's not the same player as Christian McCaffrey easily. He's not.
You know what? You know what I've realized? You know what I realized, True? I realized that, before I left, you guys were in the right state of mind. Mike used to shave and Keo didn't have a slick back and Yvonne was actually You know, he was Mr. Box Office.
Mhm.
These jokers done lost their minds.
No, I agree with the Kamara thing. I'm not paying him more than $10 million a year. Hell no. He has yet to run for 1,000 yards.
The headband gotta go. But
I
look,
don't think the Saints are gonna pay him because the Saints let Reggie Bush walk. They let Darren
Yep.
Sproles walk. They're
Yep.
not gonna pay him that money.
I don't think so either.
Better hope not.
They'll pay him. The Saints will be desperate because Drew Brees will be gone, and they'll be desperate to get a star. And the closest thing to a star is Alvin Kamara. So yeah,
I'm
you guys will
desperate
sign
for you
him.
to go on
You
to
guys-
the next topic, Mr. $80
guys-
million.
You guys will probably give him around 50 million guaranteed. Something dumb that they would do. Don't roll your eyes at me.
That dude is so silly, bro.
Go to the next topic, man.
All right. Excuse me after I just touched Jasper. But our next topic.
Oh,
Our next topic is we're gonna.
is this the
continue-
Nothing But Sports Show? Am I on the
Yeah.
Nothing But Sports Show?
Can you let me finish the topic? Okay, thank you. All right, so our next topic is we're gonna continue to talk about the running back. So Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. Which one of these running backs would you take for the next 5 years?
Go ahead, Jasper.
I only have to choose out of these three, right?
Yeah.
I like
Actually,
Saquon
throw Derrick
Barkley.
Henry in there. Throw Derrick Henry in there.
Nah, okay. It's not going to change my opinion. I like Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is bigger, stronger, not as fast, but he's pretty damn fast. And to me, I think he's doing it with less. Doing way less. And if I had to start a team and choosing one of those four running backs, I'd choose Saquon.
Okay.
Because his ceiling is higher. Like, his ceiling is way high. Like, I think, in my opinion, Christian McCaffrey might have reached what his true ceiling. I think Saquon's ceiling still, he ain't even touched it yet. He hasn't even came close to touching it.
Okay. Well, I agree. First off, not only is not only is Saquon the most complete in my mind, he's also the youngest. So the younger, the better, especially in the terms of the running back position. He's actually the fastest as well, Jasper. His 40 times faster than McCaffrey's and Kamara's. He runs a 4.4 flat. McCaffrey runs a 4.5, and Kamara runs a 4.5. He's also bigger. I'm sorry, Mike. Derrick Henry's 26. Saquon's 23. That's a huge difference for me. He's the most complete. Like Jasper said, he hasn't even hit his ceiling yet. He's doing a lot with way less than all of those. I would go in this order: Saquon first, second McCaffrey, Derrick Henry third, then Kamara fourth if we're including Henry. Kamara to me hasn't done enough. I know the Saints love to throw the ball, but he has yet to run for 1,000 yards or even catch 1,000 yards receiving. Something McCaffrey did both in this year. I love Saquon, but honestly, when his contract's up, if he's asking for more than 10 mil, which he's going to, I'm not paying him either. When I see Damian Williams is winning a Super Bowl, James White, Sony Michel, CJ Anderson, you could be the next Marshall Faulk. If you're not winning me titles, bye. That you play to win the game. So I'm not even paying Saquon 2-3 years from now. However, the next 5 years, if I had to choose one out of the whole NFL, it's Saquon Barkley.
Honestly, I was the one that picked this topic, and I don't know, just the age difference alone, it really does make a big difference. Saquon Barkley, you have to go. I mean, next 5 years, that is a long time. Maybe if we had said the next 4 years, that might be a little different. My worry for Saquon is his injuries. He's already been banged up. I think he was banged up with Penn State as well. Playing with an inferior line has hurt that. But maybe his legs are just too powerful, and has caused him to suffer from injuries already. Like I said, I like Christian McCaffrey, and I think he has better hands. I don't know, the next 3-4 years, I just like Christian McCaffrey more than Saquon Barkley. I think McCaffrey's just a more balanced running back, and I think I'd rather have him for the next 5 years. Though, for this topic's sake, it was the wrong thing to say. We'll have to say Saquon Barkley for sure. He is absolutely. I mean, just based on the years alone, you might have to go there.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we even did this topic, and hands down, Saquon Barkley for me. Eye test. Saquon Barkley, at Penn State, you saw he was special. Christian McCaffrey was special at Stanford. Excuse me. And shout out to Stanford, man. Shout out to Keo, man. We went to the Stanford Cal game this year. So shout out to Christian McCaffrey. They had jerseys everywhere with Christian McCaffrey. But Saquon Barkley, man, the eye test says it all. Though his legs, dude, look like a tree trunk. Both of them. So he's just a phenomenal talent. I gotta go with Saquon. But I will say this. Christian McCaffrey's in a very unique situation with Joe Brady. I think that it would not be far-fetched for him to have a better 5 years than Saquon Barkley, given they're both where they're at right now. One in New York, one in Carolina, and who's the offensive coordinators, who's the coaches. I like Christian McCaffrey's situation better. So he could have the better 5 years, but in a vacuum, who would I rather take if I saw both guys on a field and I could just pick one? I'd pick Saquon Barkley, obviously. Keo? I think Keo muted his stuff for a second, guys. Is there anything you want to touch on before we get to the next topic?
Okay, I'm back. As much as I hate the Giants, it got to be Christian McCaffrey, man. When you look at him, especially when he came out of the draft. He was. I thought he was one of the 5 players coming out of the draft. And if you look at talent-wise, skill set-wise, what he was able to do in his two short seasons, Saquon Barkley, I'm definitely taking him for the next 4 years. And as a matter of fact, are you guys gonna pay Saquon Barkley? How much money does he get? He hasn't won nothing yet.
Like I say, he's more banged up. I'm not paying him.
I'm not paying him neither.
Me either.
Oh, y'all asking? Oh, no, sir. Again, if I'm a GM, I play the "What have you done for me lately" game. You been hurt?
So you wouldn't pay him, but you guys wouldn't take him for the next 4 years.
I wouldn't pay Christian McCaffrey. So I wouldn't pay neither one of the guys. I'm 10 million or below. 10 million or below for all running backs.
Yes. Zeke included. Your boy Zeke, your Facebook friend, who goes and parties with Dak during a pandemic, he would get less than 10 mil.
Let's not forget, this is the most consistent running back in the NFL. Let's not forget
he's also the most consistent fool in the NFL.
His numbers speak for himself.
Yes,
It's
you're
nothing
absolutely
big
right.
for itself.
And guess what?
More,
You know what's consistent too? Him being on ESPN's bottom line for Zeke Elliott, another buffoon move. Zeke Elliott speeding 100 miles in a 65. Zeke Elliott partying with that during a pandemic. Zeke Elliott partying on a day when they're supposed to be practicing. Zeke Elliott in Cabo playing around with Mexicans. This shit, yo, at what point do you stop? This dude is a consistent bum.
So you can talk about all the off the field problems that he has, but when he gets on the field, he's gonna give you some production. And I don't need to speak anymore. I could spill those stats down your throat right now if I have to. So I'll leave it at that when it comes to Zeke. So don't ever disrespect him like that. It's your life.
Yo.
You're unbelievable. I just can't believe you right now. And to not even put him in this list. Oh my God. Go ahead.
He can't even catch the football. He doesn't catch the ball well.
Let's go to the next topic, Keo.
No. Real quick, Keo. Honestly, I'm gonna ask this honest to God question. Zeke Elliott, Christian McCaffrey. Who catches the ball better out the backfield?
Who catches the ball out the backfield better?
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey.
Point taken. Hey, man. Y'all go ahead and keep overpaying the dude that drives 110 and a 65 and parties during a pandemic.
Running back position is not just about catching the ball. If it's about catching the ball, then he should be a wide receiver. Then you're missing the point. A running back is not just about catching the ball. It's about blocking. It's about your vision.
Next topic.
Go to next topic, Keo.
I'll talk to this dude, man, after this show, man.
All
Him
right,
and that damn Cali hair.
Let's go to our next topic, man. We're gonna talk. Let's go to the next topic. We're gonna talk about one of Jasper's favorite coaches in the NFL right now, Bill O'Brien. So he's been making a lot of critical moves as of late. So
one of my favorite coaches.
Jasper's getting offended, Keo. Watch him out.
Me too. He ain't one. Look, Keo's team ain't won a Super Bowl since he's been born.
The moves that Bill O'Brien's been making as of late.
I hate all of his moves. This is my take with Bill O'Brien. Okay, I think Bill O'Brien, when given GM responsibilities, doesn't know nor understand the other side of that equation. You trade away arguably one of the top 3 receivers in the league for a guy for picks and a guy who hasn't been healthy the last 3 seasons. You trade for Brandon Cooks, who only knows how to run one route. And I think he's about to trade Deshaun Watson. I really do. And you know it's going to be sad? And I'm telling y'all, I just see this coming. And if it happens, I just want all y'all to come on the show and say, Jasper, you know sports. He's going to trade Deshaun Watson to the New England Patriots for 2 4s and 2 5s. Guaranteed. Mike.
Jasper, that's not happening.
Mike. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you why it's gonna happen. So there was a player by the name of Richard Seymour, right? And Bill Belichick wanted him gone so bad, right? And guess what? He gave up Richard Seymour for a 7th round pick. You know what else also happened? He wanted a guy by the name of Randy Moss. Okay. You know what he gave up for Randy Moss? No idea, right? He gave up a 4th round pick for arguably one of the best wide receivers of all time.
Jasper, it's not happening.
Dude.
It's not happening.
When it happens,
Watson is not in the same situation.
When it happens, you shave that mustache off your face, buddy.
Those are bad examples. Those are very bad examples, Jasper.
It's
horrible example.
It's not.
Those were awful examples.
It's not. Dude, Bill Belichick traded for Corey Dillon for nothing.
What did all those players have in common? They all wanted out. Deshaun Watson hasn't said he wanted out. He hasn't made any trouble, and that's because Deshaun Watson is good character. Bill O'Brien doesn't want to give him up. Absolutely not, and he's not going to.
Okay.
Until Deshaun Watson says, I want out, it's not happening.
We got, 9 days to the draft? Okay.
Oh, so it's happening in the draft? Oh.
Okay.
Okay, let me go.
Mike, you'll break that microphone once it happens. I guarantee you.
Absolutely.
All right. So first off, I've been harsh on Bill O'Brien for years now. No idea why he's still an NFL head coach. I don't know why he got hired in the first place. At Penn State, he went 8-4 and 7-5. Why, after only being 6 games over 500, did he need to be hired as NFL head coach in college? And then after that, his first 3 years in Houston, 9-7, and then he goes 4-12. I would have cut the ties right there. And because he drafted Deshaun Watson, that's the only smart thing he's done. He's been able to go 11-5 and 10-6, but now just choked the biggest game of his coaching career. What were they up? 24-0 against the Chiefs? You cannot lose that type of game. I don't care if it's the Chiefs. They eventually went on to be the best team in the NFL this year, but 24-0 with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, Clowney. Well, they didn't have Clowney for that game. He was traded. But regardless, they had those 3 other guys. You cannot choke that type of game. I have no idea why they gave him GM duties. Now he got rid of Deshaun Watson's biggest and best target, the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. And you got overpaid David Johnson, who's barely on the field in return. Makes no sense to me. You didn't re-sign Clowney. You got rid of Clowney. Doesn't make sense to me. Now, to top things off, this Brandon Cooks trade was the dumbest thing behind the Hopkins thing that he's done. He gave up a 2nd-round pick for Brandon Cooks. Why not just use that 2nd-round pick for a wide receiver in this draft where the receiving class is the deepest it's been in forever? You can get a stud wide receiver in this draft in the 2nd or 3rd round. That's how deep the receiving class is. And he gave it up for Brandon Cooks, a guy who's been traded 4 times in the last 5 years, who has nothing but concussion issues and runs one route. And you got to overpay him, while that 2nd round could have been used on a receiver that's going to be little to no money. Nothing Bill O'Brien has done has made sense to me. He should have been fired after his 4th year, in my opinion. And to top it off, he's done nothing. He's only 6 games over 500, and the dumb Houston Texans give him GM duties.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Yvonne, can I ask you a question?
That's it.
Can I ask you a question, Yvonne? Why haven't they traded DeAndre Hopkins? They traded Jalen Clowney. Why haven't they traded J.J. Watt?
Good question. If anybody's going downhill, it's J.J. Watt because of all his injuries. I just don't know what Bill O'Brien is doing. And this Brandon Cooks trade really
made no sense to me because now he's overpaying for Brandon Cooks, who's always hurt, and you gave a second rounder, which you could have drafted in a deep wide receiving class for cheap. No sense. He needs to go. He won't trade Deshaun Watson. He's not that delusional, but he set up Deshaun Watson to fail, kind of like the Indianapolis Colts did early in Andrew Luck's career.
Okay, Mike.
I'm in complete agreement here. Bill O'Brien doesn't know what he's doing. The trades they just don't make sense. What everybody said is correct. Brandon Cooks, he's not the same player. He's not even the same pedestal. He's not in the same conversation as DeAndre Hopkins. And they received the second round pick that they received. They traded for Brandon Cooks. It just doesn't make sense. Brandon Cooks has been with the Patriots. He's been with the Saints, and he's been with the Rams. This is his fourth team in what, 6 years. It's just I don't know what Bill O'Brien is looking for. He now has three players that do the same thing, which is Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, and Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller gets injured a little bit, so maybe he's looking at that. I'm just not sure what the motives are here. And he's also upsetting Deshaun Watson by doing that. I'm sure that the Texans will still be within the playoff division or within the playoff race. They'll be in the division race, but they're not building for a Super Bowl. And obviously the owners aren't holding Bill O'Brien accountable, or he's just able to sell his moves really well. And that's the difference right there. Bill O'Brien doesn't seem to be making the right decisions, but it'll be enough for him to keep his job.
Yeah. I think if he was to trade Deshaun Watson, Robert McNair would definitely fire him right down on the spot. He's not gonna trade Deshaun Watson. Before the trade would even go through, Rob McNair would veto that and say, "Nah, we not trading Deshaun Watson. That's foolishness." Now, Bill O'Brien, as far as what he's done in his tenure in Houston, I should say, he's underachieved. Let's be honest. He's underachieved in Houston. They had weapons this past year. You was up huge on Kansas City. We saw Kansas City just win the Super Bowl. Houston, there's no excuses. You should have been in the Super Bowl this year with the way that you had Kansas City down. Unfortunately, you didn't finish the job, and Bill O'Brien has to take a lot of blame for that. I know we can put it on Deshaun Watson, we can put it on DeAndre Hopkins, we can put it on the defense, but Bill O'Brien, to me, he's been there for quite some time, and he never seemed to get over the hump. I actually would have let him go, and I'm not one to call for people's jobs, but I would have let him go with all the talent that they have with Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, and Deshaun Watson. I would have let him go and try to find a new coach, i.e. Joe Brady. You could have let that go. You could have let Bill O'Brien go and got Joe Brady before this new season was about to kick off, before he took the Carolina Panthers job. But hey, I'm not the owner. I'm not the boss, so it is what it is. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this topic because Bill O'Brien, we all know in the sporting world what he's doing in Houston, and he's holding that city and that state captive right now.
Sabotage.
Definitely. Well, Keo stopped out for a moment, I believe.
I'm back.
Okay, Keo's back. So what you think, Keo?
Slick his hair back. Go ahead.
Somebody has to be objective on this topic.
Oh my God. Keo, if you say Bill O'Brien's doing a good job, man, hey, bro, just leave.
Can you let me talk before you start interrupting me in every topic?
Oh,
okay. Thank you very much. All right, so Bill O'Brien as a coach, he shouldn't get fired. As an executive, he should get fired for those moves because you can't blame him for the success that he's had with the Texans, taking them to the postseason numerous times. You cannot blame him for that as a coach. I think he's doing a really good job as a coach. Or as an executive, he's done a horrible job at it. So I would remove him as an executive, but not as a coach, though.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. You always got something to say after I'm done talking.
I respect you. Go ahead, brother.
And I respect you sometimes.
Let's get to the next topic.
All right, the next topic, man. So, you know, the NFL draft is around the corner, and we're gonna have a huge draft show. We're gonna go live on our draft show. We have it every single year. This time we're gonna do it live the day of the draft. So last week we were discussing the top 3 positions on the offensive side. So this week, tonight, we're gonna talk about the defensive side. So let's start off with our first position. So top 3 in each position. So let's start off with the defensive lineman. What are the top 3 prospects coming out the draft for the defensive lineman position?
Man.
Don't forget, we are doing interior and edge. So let's start with interior on this one. Defensive tackle.
So defensive tackle, man. I mean, the first person that's popping in my brain is Derek Brown out of Auburn. That dude is aced. If you haven't seen the tape on this kid can flat out go. He draws double teams. He makes, man, he is a guard center nightmare, straight up. And he gets off the snap so fast, man. So definitely I love what Derek Brown's doing. Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. He's going to be a good defensive tackle, not great. The reason why he's moving up heavily in a lot of draft boards is because, from what I'm hearing, he's ran a good 40, and he also had a pretty decent year, especially towards the end of the year for South Carolina. And my last one, y'all go ahead, man. That's my top 2 guys. I can't, man. My third guy,
Go ahead, Mr. Box Office, man.
All right, I'm going to start off at number 3, Ross Blacklock from TCU.
Oh, I heard
issue,
is he TCU or is he Texas?
Is they think that he's a one-year wonder, had one great year, but I love his size, 6'4", 290, and I would take a chance if I'm end of the first, second, third round. I wouldn't take him in the first 20 picks. I like his size, but that's why he's number 3 to me. Number 2, Javon Kinlaw, I actually like a lot more than Jasper does. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. I like what I saw out of him. Anytime I watched South Carolina, he really stuck out. Had 6 sacks, 35 tackles. He was a beast, and his production went up every year. I like Javon Kinlaw. I think he's going to be a good defensive tackle. And number 1, I think we'll all agree, Derek Brown, stud, probably a top 10 pick, double teamed a lot. I thought he forced LSU in that game to double team him all game. No one really could do anything with Derek Brown. Definitely the best defensive tackle in this draft.
The top 2, I have the same going on there, but my third actually is Raekwon Davis, Alabama, 6'7". He's 6'7", huge hands, long arms. He's like the Forrest Buckner, man. He'll play that nose tackle, or he can play a 4-3 defensive tackle as well. He plugs up the run really well, and you can teach him the pass rush finesse moves as well. He was absolutely, I think, probably the most important player on that Alabama defense. There's another player that we'll talk about later, but he's absolutely top 2, most important from that defense. On the but number 2 and 1, I do have Kinlaw. I do have Derek Brown. Those guys are just on a different level themselves. Derek Brown is going to be a top 5 pick. He'll be a top 5 pick. Their abilities and their ability to command double teams as well as take over games. They really took over games against important opponents such as Georgia, Texas A&M, just against pedestal SEC teams. Those guys really handled business there, and were the best players on the field.
Yeah, me and Mike see it exactly the same. I love Raekwon Davis, and I'm not even a big Bama guy. Like as far as I think they're so stacked. They have blue chip guys across the board, whether in the defensive line, linebackers, secondary. Everybody's a blue chip in Alabama. But Raekwon Davis, his size, his speed, I think he's versatile. I think he's very versatile on the defensive line. You can run a lot of stunts with him. So I like him. He's coming in number 3 for me. Like Mike said, big hands, everything, all the measurables are there. I think he has the upside to be better than the top 2. But I agree with both of y'all as far as Kinlaw being number 2. Kinlaw, a lot of people are saying he's like Chris Jones. I don't know. That's a huge and a big comparison to say he's going to be the next Chris Jones. But he has the upside to do it. But number 1, and I think it's by a landslide right now, but Davis has a chance, is Derek Brown. Just because of what he did at Auburn. Just dominant. LSU had one game this year where they struggled offensively, and that was against Auburn. Derek Brown is a monster, and I think he's clearly a top 10 pick. I can't say 5 because the quarterbacks are moving up the board, I believe, but definitely a top 10 pick, and he'll definitely be the number 1 defensive tackle taken in this upcoming year's draft. Yo.
Number 1, I'm going with Derek Brown from Auburn. He was huge in SEC play, especially in those big games. He was really huge against Oregon, which hurt me. It broke my heart in that game. The number 2 guy is Javon Kinlaw, and I just like his skill set, man, his athleticism, his upside. And then going to number 3, I'm gonna go with Jordan Elliott from Missouri, man.
Oh, wow.
I think a lot of people, he got him flying under the radar. And as of right now, I got him going. I got a possibility going to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think he will be a huge asset for the Chiefs. Something the Chiefs that may need in that position. So I'm definitely gonna go with Jordan Elliott, and those are my top 3 for defensive tackles. All right, so let's move over to the defensive the defensive linemen.
So for our defensive ends, the first person I'm gonna bring up, and I just think he's a dog, Terrell Lewis out of Alabama. I like him. He might end up being like a 2nd-round guy, but due to the type of talent that's coming out, but I think he could get to the pass rush at will. I think if he goes to a really good team, maybe a veteran, another vet or whatnot, and plus he's an Alabama guy. Usually Alabama produces pretty decent defensive guys. At number 2, I gotta go with Kavon Chason, man. Hey, that dude is tough. When he's fast off the line. I mean, this dude, hey man, he's got like scary potential. And of course, man, our number 1, man. I'm gonna just say this. I mean, the people in the Maryland area who have spoken about this kid well before he went to Ohio State spoke highly of him, and they all said the same thing, that when they all knew he was going to be a top prospect, even in high school, and that's Chase Young. Chase Young is box office. Chase Young in my opinion, depending on the situation, could be as good, if not better, than Lawrence Taylor.
What? Oh man! Wow! Wow! Yvonne, go ahead, man. Because I almost fell out of my chair just now. Lord have mercy.
Go ahead, box
Yvonne.
office.
Okay, so number 3, I'm gonna go with the Iowa defensive end, AJ Epinesa. Beast every year got better. The numbers were better and better. The only concern is he did not impress teams at the combine, from what I'm hearing. So that's gonna force him to drop probably at the end of the first, early second round. But at the end of the day, what I've noticed about defensive players, I don't really care about the size. I care about the tape. I remember watching at Wisconsin TJ Watt. I mean, every Wisconsin game I watched, he was dominant. And people kept saying for the NFL, he's undersized, he's this and that. No, the tape doesn't lie. And this guy's tape does not lie. He was very effective at Iowa. Every year got better. Number 2, Uter Gross Matos from Penn State. I thought another guy that apparently did not impress at the combine, but he was good at getting to the quarterback at Penn State. I liked, what he did there. Every year his sack numbers went up. 8 2 years ago, 9.5 last year. If you can get to the quarterback, I trust you. Number 1, Chase Young. I'm not going to go Lawrence Taylor route, but Chase Young will not be a bust. He will be a good NFL defensive end. Actually, good is underrated. I think he's going to be great. If I just trust what he learned from Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa.
What do you compare him to?
Man, he reminds me of Mario Williams back with the Houston Texans.
Look at his face.
Mario Williams was great.
Mario Williams is not even a Hall of Famer. Are you kidding me?
I think Mario Williams almost had 100 sacks in the NFL. Look it up. He does not have less than 90 sacks.
Mario Williams was good. You don't have to be a Hall of Famer.
You can have a really good career. That's who I see. He might be better. And I'm not, Jasper, you're acting like I thought he was going to be a bust. I think he's going to be a really good player.
I thought you were going to say Charles Haley. You could have gave him Charles Haley and not have been.
Anyways, that's my top 3. You go ahead.
No,
you could have said Dwight Freeney, and I'd have been great.
Well, Dwight Freeney was more a finesse rusher. I see more power out of Chase Young.
Good point.
That's exactly the case. Chase Young is has to be the number one prospect, just based on his size, his tape. I'm not sure he has it in his head though, the mentality. Like I said, my biggest knock on him is he seemed to quit on Ohio State. He had problems staying on the field because of NCAA rules. I think that hurt his passion for the school. I'm not sure that the coaches fought for him as well. That might have been it. I don't know. I don't know if his heart is in it, and he definitely didn't seem to bring his all in the championship games. But I mean, his tape alone for the season, I mean, you could tell he's just powerful. He's just more powerful than everybody else, and he absolutely deserves to be the top defensive line prospect. At number 2, I have Chasen. Him and my next prospect, those guys are just fast. They're just fast on the edge. I think Chasen and another linebacker were the dominant pieces on that LSU defense, and they could not be stopped. Chasen's young as well. He's just getting started. I like Chasen's tape, and I'm going to be a great edge rusher in the NFL. Then my third one is my third is John Greener from Florida. There was a couple other prospects that I was looking at, especially Terrell Lewis for Alabama, and Iowa's defensive end as well. Epinesa, I always forget AJ. That's what I've been calling him. He's got size now. AJ has size, but I'm not sure I want that for a defensive end. He's gonna have to move inside, honestly, and I just don't think he's a better defensive tackle prospect than the others. AJ's just too slow. So for my edge, I like Chase Young, I like Chase and Greenard. Those are my top three prospects. And honestly, when you look at these defensive lines, that the players that I've been talking about, only one is not part of the SEC. That's Chase Young. SEC just breeds defensive linemen.
Can I say something real quick, True?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I feel very embarrassed. And before I let you go, because I think you're gonna correct everyone. It's Kavon Chasson.
I told him that.
It's Kavon Chasson. So I do apologize to my Louisiana people. Hey, listen. Hey.
I'll get my French better. I'll up my French a little bit. My French dialect.
Hey, you gotta curve your mustache up in order to say that.
By the way, Charles Haley only 3 more sacks than Mario Williams all time. Go ahead.
All right. So obviously, Jasper, you are correct. His name is Chasson. If you live in Louisiana, definitely that's what we will say. But my number 3 dude is Baylor's very own James Lynch, man. I think this kid has a high motor. I think think he's going to be productive. I'm not saying he should, he's going to go before a lot of guys, but I do think he's going to have a long career. I think he's going to be in the league for 10 years, 10 plus years possibly, just because of his high motor. He's not going to give up on plays. He's going to keep playing hard. And I think we're looking at a good prospect, in this upcoming draft. Coming in number 2, of course, Kavon Chasson from LSU, pass rush specialist. I think he's going to get to the quarterback on third downs. You're gonna love what you get. And number 1 is Chase Young. But I'm going to be the first one. I might be the only one on here. I'm not high on Chase Young like everybody else. I think he has trouble against double teams. I think he leaves a lot to be desired in the run game. I think I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. He's definitely not going to be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Mario Williams is not a bad comparison. He could be that. He could be good. I see a lot of Jadeveon Clowney in him. And as I can see, I'm not saying Clowney's bad, but Clowney still hasn't gotten paid. He didn't get what he wanted. And sometimes I do think Chase Young doesn't give it his all. So for me, and it's no knock to him, I wish him nothing but the best, but I don't think he's the number 1 prospect in this draft. I would definitely take Derrick Brown over him. I would take Isaiah Simmons over him on the defensive side of the ball. So he is number 1 defensive end, but I would not be surprised if he does not end his career being the best defensive end from this draft.
I actually don't see Clowney in him. I think Clowney is really good against the run and okay at passing, at getting to the passer. Meanwhile, I think it's the opposite with Chase Young. I don't think he's the best against the run, but I think he's a lot better against the pass than Clowney is right now, to be honest, in my opinion.
Okay.
I like Bradley Chubb to be a comparison for him, but I don't know. I just don't think he's going to be an elite rusher. I just don't think he's going to be an elite rusher at all. I don't think he should be drafted where he is. I definitely would rather have Derrick Brown as a prospect.
Keo?
Okay. Number 1 is obviously going to be Chase Young, the top prospect. Number 2, I'm going to go with Kavon Chasen. I'm not from Louisiana, so I'm going to call him Chasen, not Chasson, with that accent that you had right now. So,
look at Jasper.
And like I said, don't be rolling your eyes at me, man. I told you that already. And the last guy that the last guy that I have is going to be Marlon Davidson from Auburn. I like Marlon Davidson from Auburn. I like his versatility. He's physical. He's tough. A lot of people give Derek Brown credit, but I like Marlon Davidson, man. He's been making huge plays for Auburn on the defensive side during SEC play. And those are my top three for defensive ends. All right, next, let's go to the linebackers.
Oh, where is my phone? Hold on. Okay. For linebackers. No, I had to get my phone. I'm sorry about that, guys.
I'll just go ahead until Jasper gets settled. Inside linebackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just linebackers in general.
Okay. So for me, number 3 is, I don't want to say the name wrong. I'm going to just say the last name, Jennings from Alabama. I loved what I saw out of him at Alabama. He did not just worry about stopping the runner, but he got to the quarterback. 8 sacks, was great as well, stopping the run with 83 tackles. But when you have 8 sacks, playing that linebacker position, he was great from Alabama. Number 2 for me would have to be, I believe it was a guy from Texas Tech. Oh my God, I left my mind. Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks at Texas Tech was good. I don't think he's a first rounder. I think he was second round. I'm cool with Jordan Brooks. And number 1 to me, every Oklahoma game I watched, he stuck out. That was Kenneth Murray. Oklahoma's defense was not great, but if one guy stuck out to me, it was Kenneth Murray. Loved him. I saw him play Texas twice. Obviously, in the bowl game against LSU, that wasn't much of a competition. But I thought Kenneth Murray was the most consistent player on that defense, and I'm cool with Kenneth Murray, and I think he's going to be a steal in this draft. I really do.
Wow.
Wow, I'm shocked.
Jasper, are you ready?
I am ready.
Go ahead, bro.
So I'm gonna go with this is very interesting, by the way. I'm gonna go with Jordan Brooks at number 3. Dude is fast as hell. Runs a 4.5 40. Very great instincts on the ball. He had over 100 tackles as a senior this year. I could see him being a second rounder. Some people say third or fourth, but I could see a second rounder. At number 2, I got Kenneth Murray. Again, another great 40 time. Has a great knack of getting to the ball, and he's a great solid tackler. Like, he's not one that's going to miss too many tackles. And at number 1, and I'm saying this only because I don't see him being moved to safety at all. I got to go with Isaiah Simmons. I think he's a stud linebacker. I think depending on what team he goes to, which I have a funny feeling it's going to be the Giants, I think he's going to be moved around and he's going to be able to play in multiple positions and multifacets of the defense. And it's going to this is just my opinion. I see if he were to play like a safety position, I could see him kind of being like a little bit of Ronnie Lott. But if he's playing that linebacker position, if he plays it well, if he plays the linebacker position well enough, I'm going to go out on a limb. And I'm going to say that he could potentially be very comparable to like I would say Terrell Suggs, but I think that's too much. I think that's not enough justice. I'm gonna say oh my God, the Steelers linebacker, James Harrison.
What? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. I'm lost right now, but go ahead, Mike.
I thought, to me, I consider Simmons more outside linebacker. That's why he and Patrick Queen weren't on my list. But if we're doing all linebackers, then it's Isaiah Simmons for me. But go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I was wondering.
Me too. I was wondering.
He's more outside to me than inside.
Yeah,
but
we're
he can
doing
do
all
both,
linebackers.
though.
Yeah, we're doing both inside and outside.
He can play both, though, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the thing. Isaiah Simmons is going to be a middle linebacker for sure. That's why he's going to be drafted as a middle linebacker. I mean, I guess I'll just start with him. Like, he's a 5'2" prospect. I think he does everything well. He can be your general on defense. He was the general for Clemson. He was their defense. Isaiah Simmons is one of the best prospects I've seen, and there's no doubt in my mind he's going to be a star. And I wish the Raiders could. We had a hole at linebacker. We still do. We got a couple free agents, but if he's going to be an anchor for a defense for a long time, which is a big reason why I think Ron Rivera is looking at him instead of Chase Young at number 2. Ron Rivera is looking for he's looking for. I feel like he's looking for another linebacker. He did sign Thomas Davis, so that's something right there. But I mean, I don't think you can pass on a linebacker prospect like Isaiah Simmons, and I think Rivera can see that. He might go number 2. For my second linebacker, I have Patrick Queen. He was the best defensive player on LSU's team. He runs a little small he's measured at 230, but that's easily attainable. He drops in coverage. He's an easy 3-down linebacker. He does everything. Patrick Queen is also excellent all-around running linebacker. Kenneth Murray is the one who's got bigger size. He does play middle linebacker well, but he missed a lot of tackles. I think he plays kind of soft for his size and for where he played with Oklahoma. He didn't lower the boom as much as I thought he should, especially as a middle linebacker. He's my third, but I like a lot of I like a few other linebacker prospects here. And I'm not as high as Kenneth Murray as other people are. I definitely have Queen and Simmons over him.
Okay. Well, me and Mike, I'm gonna start with the number 1 guy. I agree. This is the best player as far as defensive wise in the draft is Isaiah Simmons. I think he should be the first defensive player drafted in this draft. I don't know if he'll go number 2 after Joe Burrow, but if Washington's there, I think they should take Isaiah Simmons, and they'll be beating themselves if he ends up going to the Giants because they'll have to face him 2 times a year. But Isaiah Simmons, he's super versatile. I'm going to tell you who he reminds me of is Brian Urlacher.
Yeah.
Brian Urlacher played safety in college, safety and linebacker, similar to what Isaiah Simmons is doing or was doing at Clemson. I think he's going to do the same thing in the NFL. He'll be versatile, but he'll be playing middle linebacker, like Mike said, for either the Redskins or the Giants. I believe he'll be in the NFC East. So, Keo, your Cowboys are probably going to see him twice a year. Coming number 2, I agree with Mike, is Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is a little undersized, so that's a little concerning for me. But I do know the guy that coached him in high school personally, and I'm telling y'all, man, from what he's telling me, this kid is super, 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 super smart. And if he's super smart and has a good work ethic, I think it could work out for him because he's definitely athletic enough. Just a little undersized for me, but I think it could work. Number 3, though, I like Evan Weaver, and me and Keo actually saw him in person.
Yeah.
This kid he's in every play. He led the nation in tackles this past season by a landslide. He is literally in every single play. Where the ball's at, he's there. I think you're looking at a really good prospect, even though they're not going to draft him high, obviously. But I think this kid could turn out to be a good middle linebacker for somebody in the NFL. So he comes at number 3 for me. Keo?
Wow, man. I didn't think anybody was gonna say that, but I actually had Weaver at number 3 also. We were able to watch him play, man, and he was nasty, man. And I was like, man, during the game, I was like, man, let me check this guy's numbers out during the game. I was like, damn, he's on the top of the list. And he continued that, man. I think he's gonna be a steal for the draft. And I think to the right team, man. I got him at number 3. Number 2, people hear me say this guy's name a lot on the NBS show the past couple of weeks, but I got Patrick Queen at number 2. I think he's going to be a huge asset to whoever whatever team decides to draft him, man. So I definitely got him at number 2, and number 1 is definitely Isaiah Simmons at number 1. All right, so we got 2 more positions left, and we're gonna go straight to the safeties.
So at I typically like safety that have some length and some that are rangy. I don't really like some. There are some really good safeties that could play in the box this year, but I like tall, long. So at number 3, I'm gonna go with Ashton Davis out of Cal. I think he's gonna be. At 6'1", 200. I think he's gonna be a pretty solid safety for the league. I think he's gonna be a guy that could definitely cover and help on the top end of some of the more elite receivers. At number 2, and I'm only being biased, I got Xavier McKinney, only because he's about 6 feet tall. Again, he covered, he played fairly well in coverage this year. Very, very good tackler. Very, very, very good tackler. But my number 1, hey man, this guy was, before the season started, he was a top 5 pick potentially. And I know he had some tough times, but when this dude was on the field, he was money. Grant Delp is a bad man with bad intentions. He's my number 1. And if anybody ain't got Grant Delp at number 1, you tripping. Including Mel Kiper. Go ahead.
Woo! Let's go, Jay. Franchise, what up?
All right. Number 3 for me is Xavier McKinney from Alabama. I did not like him at Alabama like many others did. He just didn't stuck out to me when I watched Alabama play. I didn't like what I saw out of their defensive backs. I thought they got burned too much, to be honest. I don't like McKinney as much as others. I wouldn't like my Colts to draft him if he dropped that low, but that's just me. Number 2 is Antoine Winfield from Minnesota. If you guys remember, his dad was a Viking for a long time and was great. One of the best Vikings defensive players ever. He was great. He was a Pro Bowler numerous amount of times. I like what his dad and the influence he'll have on him. And watching Minnesota play, he stuck out to me every time I watched him play this year. One big reason Minnesota was really good this year was because of Winfield. I really like him. I think he's a ball hawk. If he drops to my Colts, I am cool with them grabbing him. Number 1 is Grant Delpit from LSU. The only thing that concerns me about him, he's a little injury prone. He had a setback here this year. He got burned by Devin Duvernay in the Texas game a lot, but that's going to happen. That's okay. As long as he's healthy, he'll be successful in the NFL.
I have the same 3 as box office. Later, like you said, the Alabama safety, he should have stuck out, especially because of the quarter that he played with, who I like a lot. But McKinney did not stick out. I think he whiffed on some plays. He filled up the numbers. I mean, he was good in the run. He came up with a lot of tackles, which is why I'm not a big fan of Anthony Jennings. I think Xavier McKinney played well in the run game. He was a tackle machine. 95 tackles as a stats show. he's a boomer. He can hit hard. So I think he's solid at the strong safety position. But pass coverage as a free safety, I'm not really about it for McKinney. I don't think he was great in that regard, but he was but doable. And then number 2, I do have Winfield there. When I saw that name too, I didn't realize I had to look that up. I didn't know that was it was the son of Winfield. So that was interesting to me. But 7 interceptions, you can't look over that. He's absolutely a ball hawk at 5'9". That's interesting. And he should put on a big some more size for being small. But he's absolutely going to be a solid safety. I don't love the safety prospects in this draft, but at number 1, Delphi, he is absolutely a stud. And because of the lack of safety prospects, you could definitely see him going in the first round as the first safety take.
All right, well, I'm not gonna take long on this. I agree with you guys. The same exact 3, same exact way. I want to talk about Del Pitt. I'm not even talking about the other 2. Winfield, I like Winfield, though. I do think he's undersized. I will say that. That's my only concern with Winfield. And then Xavier has a cool name, right? I gotta give him that, right? First cool name, right? But Del Pitt, man. Del Pitt should be a first-round draft pick. And if it wasn't for the injuries, Yvonne is 1,000% correct about Del Pitt. Del Pitt, man. He should literally should be a top 15 pick in my opinion. I think it would not surprise me if somebody came up and took him. I know Mike spoke about Patrick Queen and Clavon Chason or Chasson, however you want to word it, as far as being the leaders. But I think it's Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit was the best player on that defense last year, even though he was banged up, even though, he did get beat up some of the time or beat sometimes in games, especially against Texas and other teams. But overall, he was the heart and soul of that team. He wore the number 7 that everybody knows at LSU is the number to wear at LSU. So I think Grant Delpit is special. I think you're talking about a ball hawk safety, he's gonna be better in the NFL than he was at LSU. The injuries really held him up. So I'm going with him number 1. Keo?
All right. Let me be as respectful as I can with this topic.
Oh, here we go.
Number 1, I got Xavier McKinney. I think he's the best prospect out there with talent-wise. You look at Alabama and the defense. I know it's loaded, but he's a playmaker, man. When you talk about playmaking ability, dynamics, you talking about Xavier McKinney. Number 2, I like Winfield, man. I think he's gonna learn a lot from his dad, and as Minnesota had a good year, man, and that defense was one of the reasons why. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Grant Delpit, but I'm actually not comfortable and confident with that, man. But I feel like that's the safest pick. I think this, and I think
comfortable.
I think one of his. Can you let me finish for once? I think one of this guy's biggest issues is he can't tackle if his life depended on it.
Don't be disrespectful.
I mean, the tape is out there, man. That dude can't tackle, man.
Okay.
He's not consistent with his tackling, man.
What pick y'all got?
What pick you got?
What pick you got?
What pick do I
got?
got?
What pick does Dallas have?
19, I believe.
Okay. So, Theo, you're in the war room with Jerry Jones. Winfield, Delpit, and McKinney on your board. Who you drafting with that pick?
I told you I'm going with Xavier McKinney, man.
Wow.
You talk about explosiveness, man, the dynamics, man, playmaking ability. That's who I'm going for, man. When I think of
You don't even
Grandel
trust
Pitt,
yourself.
when I think of Grandel Pitt, I think of him as Eric Berry, man. And Eric Berry was a huge disappointment in the NFL.
What?
Yeah, he was.
Oh my God.
How's Eric Berry doing, by the way?
Get this fool off the show, man.
Eric Berry was not Earl Thomas, but he wasn't disappointing. What are you talking about?
But based off of his draft type, the draft type of that year, he didn't live up to his expectations.
What's McKinney?
You guys are setting Eric Berry's expectations really low right now, man. Let's not act like Eric Berry is great. Eric Berry ain't great.
So where's McKinney right now? And like who do you compare him to? Let me say that.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
McKinney, I would compare him to Darwin James, but just more of a physical type of safety and more exposed and dynamic, and he doesn't get injured.
He will never be as good as Derwin James.
Hey man, I gotta go, man. Keo tripping.
I mean, I'm not sitting here. I'm not gonna be sitting here arguing with you, Keo. And I'm not big on these things, but I'm just putting it out there. Eric Berry made the All-Decade team.
Thank you.
That's all we gotta talk about.
And Frank Gore made the All-Decade team, and we know he doesn't even belong in the All-Decade team. You serious?
Frank Gore's a Hall of Famer.
Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer, dog.
Oh man, you sleep, Keo. But it's all right. Let's go to corner. Let's go to corner, man. Let's go to corner.
All right, let's go. Cornerbacks, top 3 prospects.
All right, so my top 3 prospects are as follows. So, man, this is going to be very interesting. So, at number 3, I like C.J. Henderson out of Florida. This dude is rangy. He is a shutdown guy. He definitely tackles. He tackles fairly well. Very good kid. Florida usually has some pretty good DBs come out. At number 2, I got to go with Christian Fulton from LSU.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, he can shut down. Again, 6 foot, nice tall cornerback. Likes to play a lot of man-to-man. We didn't play much zone. Very man-to-man type guy. Likes to jam at the line. Could be a very, very good prospect. Could be like a number 2 guy. It could be a definite cornerback too. But number 1, this guy, man. Hey, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna just be straight honest. I see a little bit of Revis Island in this kid. Jeff Judah. Judah.
At least pronounce his name right. Because you want to call out people pronouncing names right.
Okuda.
You can't make this up.
Man, get this man out of here.
Oh my God.
My name is not Roger Goodell, and I'm not making picks out of my basement, all right? So.
Go ahead, Mark.
Am I going? Okay. Well, number 3 for me, Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Diggs' brother.
Yes, good job.
I like what I saw out of Diggs at Alabama more than I liked McKinney. I also like that his brother's got experience in the NFL, even though it's a different position. I like Trayvon Diggs. Number 2, C.J. Henderson. Reminds me a little bit of Marcus Peters. You'll see some inconsistency there, but I do think he'll get better and better as his career goes. Number 1, Jeff Okuda. Reminds me of Patrick Peterson. That's who I see. I think Okuda's going to be a beast. I love him in the NFL. And I think Detroit will probably end up with Okuda to replace Darius Slay. And I think that would be a smart move. I like Okuda in the NFL.
Big Mike. Oh man.
Yes, sir. Pretty much the same order. At three, I have Diggs. I mean, matched up against the Alabama wide receivers, playing against his brother. He's got he has the experience. I think he made some mistakes in big games, especially against LSU and Clemson. But Trayvon Diggs absolutely has the experience and the size and physical gifts to be one of the best corners out there. He's my third prospect. Number 2 is Jalen Johnson, who I think is a real ball hawk. He's from Utah. He's long, he's skinny, and he's got confidence too. He played in a premier offensive league, being in the Pac-12. And I like Jalen Johnson over every other physical corner out there. C.J. Anderson, Fulton, the Ohio. Who's the other Ohio State corner? They're number 2, but number 1 obviously has to be Okuda, who's absolutely the best shutdown corner out there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Oh man. All right. Get your composure. All right.
Hey,
so number
cutting out a lot.
Number 3 is C.J. Henderson for me. Decent corner, could turn out to be a really good corner in the NFL. Probably a better NFL prospect player than he is in college, than he was in college. I do like his length. He could be something special. I like the Marcus Peters comparison. That was a really good comparison. I do like Trayvon Diggs. Number 2, like Mike said, going up against his brother, against them Alabama receivers, day in and day out. It's going to help him in the long haul. But number 1 is Jeff Okuda. I don't know what Jasper was thinking. That was funny. I'll be the first one to say it. I think he'll be good. But I'm not that far along. Revis is tough, man. Revis, to say he's Revis or just another guy, I remember there was Lawrence Taylor. Jasper, you putting them out there on an island, that's tough, man, for them to obtain. But Okuda should be really good, but I just don't think that good like everybody's expecting him to be. I think top end he'll be something like Darius Slay. He'll probably take Darius Slay's spot in Detroit, but I don't think he's gonna be Revis or Dion or nothing like that.
All right, so my number 3, I'm gonna go with C.J. Henderson. At number 3, I think he has climbed up in the draft rankings as of late. Going to number 2, Trayvon Diggs. I think a lot of draft experts are not high on him, but just the defense when it comes to Alabama, man. But I just like the cornerback play of Diggs. I got him at number 2, and number 1 I got Jeff Okuda. If you want to talk about comparisons, I see Jalen Ramsey.
Wow.
I'm going to say Jalen Ramsey.
I think he's going to be an NFL stud. I love Okuda at the next level. And I will say this. I think he plays very physical but clean. He committed 0 penalties all last year. I love Okuda.
Okay.
All right, guys. Unfortunately, this ain't Blog Talk Radio, so we're running short on time right now. So it's time to wrap up tonight's show and do our shout outs.
All right. Well, I'll go first. Shout out to you guys, man, for holding down. Jasper, it was nice to hear from you finally. Looking forward to having you back. I'm excited from the draft. We're 9 days away. The draft is so much fun, especially the draft is something I look forward to every year, and I can't wait for that first overall pick to get for the first team to be on the clock, but especially during quarantine, especially during this situation that we're all going through. at least we're gonna have something exciting to watch, something to talk about for next few weeks. My eyes are glued to a TV nowadays all the time, anyways, because there's nothing else to do. But that weekend, man, I do not want to be bothered. Cannot wait. And I thought it was a successful show with the Zoom and YouTube Live, and I cannot wait until next week.
Big Mike? Did we lose Big Mike? Okay, he's there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this connection. It's pretty terrible right now, but we held it down through it. Shout out to Jay for showing up. Glad to hear from you. You always got the hot takes and always ragging on us. Ready for this NFL draft though, and we'll get this A1 down.
Thank you.
All right, man. It was an interesting show, man, and it was good with everybody on tonight's show. Fortunately, we got to end it, and it went by fast, so we covered a lot, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. So yeah, the NBS show, man. NBS show on YouTube Live, also on Facebook Live. We also got the Stardom Cinema show during football season, and then we got our new show with me and True with the Let's Talk About It, where we cover a little bit of everything. And we got more shows on the NBS Central brand. Make sure you go follow the Instagram page. Make sure you go subscribe to the channel. And make sure you go add the new Facebook page under NBS Central, man. And shout out to everybody that tunes in and supports the show throughout these years, man. We've been running pretty long. Shout out to True, always holding it down. Jasper, always. Mr. Box Office, Mike, and once again, everybody that supports the show, and be safe out there, man.
Great job. Oh.
And felt really good, man, to come on this show. Bless you guys with a lot of knowledge. I gotta get Yvonne and Mike back on track. Keo, man. Hey, man, you gotta watch your tone when you're talking to the phone. A lot of greatness right here, man. A lot of greatness right up here. Yo, like real talk though, man. Shout out to real talk. Like, yo, shout out to like our first line responders and defense people in the hospitals out there. Looking out for people that that are suffering from this pandemic. Shout out to the police officers, all the armed forces, all those people out there that are doing their due diligence to keep our country as well as the world safe. Shout out to the kids out there, that's stuck at home, that's stuck at home. Hey, man, y'all don't give y'all parents no trouble. Shout out to the parents out there holding it down. Hey, man, y'all, again, don't hurt your kids, man. Don't hurt your kids. That's all I'm gonna say, man. If you need advice on how to handle the kids, True X Sports Junkie is like a professional at this, man. I know. Again, shout out to the whole NBS Central crew. Big Mike, shave, man. Go ahead and shave, man. You're looking older than me. Yvonne, don't wear that headband again to the show. Keo,
That dude's something else.
Hey, Keo, do me a favor. Whatever hair grease you're using to slick back your hair, don't wear it again. Okay? Don't ever wear that again. Highly disrespectful. Especially in the franchise's presence. And True, man, you know how we get down, man. We debate, we argue, we make each other laugh. It's all love, man. Hey, but prior to the next show, I need you to show me how to get this background, looking nice and hot, because I feel like I'm the franchise, but the background ain't good, feel like you know, again, we got a lot coming out. We got the new app coming out here in the next couple of days, where you can watch the show. Outside of that, man, hey, man. Franchise, man. Franchise. The greatest sports ever. I appreciate you taking that off, Yvonne.
All right, man. All right. Shout out to all y'all for coming on the show tonight, man. It's been an epic show.
Hey, True. One more thing.
What's
One more
up?
thing. Jasper makes an appearance on the show once a year, and he knows he's not going to be back until 2021. So he did all his talking for the year tonight.
Oh yeah. Hey, Jasper is officially the clown of the show. Jasper, don't stop, man. I literally cried on here laughing at Jasper, bro. Jasper, come on, man. You too silly, bro. But like I was saying, shout out to all you guys for coming on, man. History in the making, Nothing But Sports Show on YouTube Live. Truex the Sports Junkie, man. If y'all can do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube page and hit that notification button, man, so you can get these daily updates. And like Jasper said, the app is coming soon. This has been a Nothing But Sports Show. I am Truex the Sports Junkie. We out. Peace.